Blog Talk Radio.
Here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
And well on planet Earth. Can you hear me now? Isn't that a well-known famous saying? Well, it's Sunday. We're all together. We're going to talk about soul expanse, near-death experiences with Suzanne Wyman-Flynn and your host, Theresa J. Morris. This is our Sunday show, Spiritual Go-To-Meeting for all you universal life experiencers out there that believe there is such a thing as an essence and an expanse, and I guess in divinity, God's source. Some people just say source. Some of them say God. Some say, believe it or not, some say consciousness is the essence of all there is. So while we're out there fishing around trying to figure it all out for ourselves, we're going to figure out who we are and where we're going when we leave the planet. But two women getting together, sharing near-death experiences is what we're going to do today. So let me get my Suzanne Wyman-Flynn on here with me. Suzanne Wyman-Flynn, hi. Can you hear me now?
Hey, TJ, how are you today? Good talking to you. Thanks for bringing me on the show. How are you today?
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that we're going to do something that's only today. It's unique. We got 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth, two nostrils. So let's see how many. Let's see. Oh, we got the other one that makes it even, I guess, out the other end. How many orifices are the oracles having today that makes everybody normal? So, folks, we've been having some strange times, but I see a lot of people tuning in. Wow, we got a lot of people tuning in from all over the world, but especially New York. So that's amazing.
Oh, wow.
They love spirituality. And I guess they like us, and they're probably glad to see us. We've been gone a few weeks. I don't know, how long have we been gone? A couple of weeks?
Oh, we've been gone since
2 or 3
the
weeks.
24th of July. Maybe 5 weeks.
Wow. Well, there's been a lot going on, and folks, be sure and vote. I don't care if you can or not, but a lot of people do, but I've always voted, but I don't know if I'm going to. Politics and religion, I don't know. Spirituality, we're doing our best. I've always voted, but I'm an independent thinker, so I imagine most of the souls out there are independents. But just, think about it if you're in America. If you're not, vote wherever you are, I guess. That's the thing to do, vote. So, okay, I did my part for saying that. So now, near-death experiences. Suzanne, why don't you tell people a little about you so we can get this show on the road, near-death and soul expanse?
Well, so basically I think that no matter how I would have organized or orchestrated my life, I think I always would have worked as a psychic. I was born into a family that was warm and receptive. My great-uncle had been a Rosicrucian astronomer, and my grandmother taught me how to read feet. and I saw her using a regular deck of cards to read people with, and she had her girlfriends that did tea leaf readings, and so I was sort of raised in a atmosphere of thinking that this was sort of a normal, and of course it was my normal. And I was raised in what was called Science of Mind, which is now called Center for Spiritual Understanding, Ernest Holmes' teachings. And so I think it kind of gave me an interesting advantage, seeing a lot of books on psychic development and so forth. So I think that I was just raised in an atmosphere of, a lot of psychic awareness. And I couldn't imagine being anything else, but I think sometimes the work that I do requires maturity in order for it to be valuable, and I think that that's probably one of the biggest problems is that people don't really understand that dealing with other people's information really doesn't have anything to do with you. You're just the person at the time listening to the story and giving your perspective. So I think that's the thing that I practice today in doing my work. There's no judgment. There's no criticism or anything like that. It's just a process of listening to somebody's story and seeing if I can offer empowerment to them in order for them to gain a better understanding of their own lives and make improvements from that point forward. So that's primarily my focus, and I started out by learning how to do past life regressions and what is called prenatal regressions, which are not really not talked about as much as other types of regressions. You go into the time before you're born and you look at what's happening, and I suppose in doing past life regressions and prenatal regressions and even regressing traumatic events with people, the difference is that I actually see the imagery with them, I get the pictures with them, I get the feeling with them, and I stay with them. And so the regressions move more rapidly, they're more effective, and they create better results. A lot of deep work. Not many people are fearless and brave enough to actually do that sort of work. And so, and then I studied with a man by the name of Alex Lukeman for a year, dream interpretation, what your dreams can teach you. And I teach dream interpretation, but I'm working as a psychic full-time and doing private clients. So this is what I've done since, full-time professionally since 1982. I love it.
Wow, all right. Well, I'll give a little background on me. I started doing professional readings, so to speak, in 1978 as an arson fraud investigator. But I didn't really do tarot cards till 1984. I had cards through the 70s, which my children reminded me of. But going into the bookstores back in the day, folks, it was really a unique thing, and they weren't used to. They were old Bell Book and Candle or off-the-wall names way before we had all the bigger chains that you knew about with Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. But these were little stores, and they were real off-the-wall, sort of, if you were lucky. The first one that I found was in Houston near Rice University called Aquarian Bookstore, believe it or not, and two ladies that ran it. Well, one was the mother of John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, if you guys have heard of that. And I got to meet him coming to the store one day, and I thought, wow, isn't he tiny? Because I'm 5'11", probably had on 2-inch heels, and I thought John Gray was such a tiny little person. But then I looked at his mother, and she was tiny too. So that was all I remember too much, and he had a great smile, and he was very sweet, of course. But the ladies that ran that little bookstore are the ones that really turned me on to all their books, and I read everything, and they had me start on one end and read all the way around to the other. And then when I moved from there into other cities, I would, Birmingham, Chattanooga, Rochester, New York, I would go to their stores, and then over where Suzanne lives in California, there was Bodie Tree. But the bookstores were always the place, and occasionally you would ask to meet a psychic, And my first reading was by a psychic in 1984. So that's when it all started for me, was putting together. I mean, I had the tools, but I had been, my first near-death experience was really when the second grade, but I'd been visited by angels, I guess one might say, or I called them another family. And when I fell asleep I got lost, so to speak, 4 or 5 years old, and laid down in a pasture where we used to fly kites. And I remember my mother worried, and she had a baby, a new baby, my sister. So it must have been 54. I think Brenda was born October 54. So it must have been May 55. But anyway, during that time, I went up on an extraterrestrial ship, or what I called a ship, up in the clouds. So not everybody has those, but I did, and I'm still searching for ways to speak about that. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm meeting people now in radio, and there's plenty of radio shows about ETs, UFOs. But after that was 55, and then second grade, I had hepatitis. So I got really sick in the second grade, and they had to bring me my work at the hospital. But I really did get so bad that I turned yellow. My liver was leaving and shutting down, and I got so sick I couldn't do anything. Literally, I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't get up. I was just almost dead. And I guess when they finally got a machine up, it was something new back in 57, 58. It must have been 57. I was in the second grade. I think I started 55 to 56, so it would have been 56 to 57, I think. And that's when they had the new dialysis machine. They brought one up from New Orleans. I was in Monroe, Louisiana. And I guess it saved my life. They purified my blood, but it was so hard on my system at the time. I'm sure they used the big bore needles, but I remember seeing angels, or beings, that I described to the Catholic. It was St. Francis Hospital that I saw them on the top of up over me, and I was out of body. So that was my first out-of-body experience. So I learned to be in my body, but out of my body, but know that they're one and the same. So I guess in a way I never forgot that, because later on I have this psychic ability, and I tried that out during high school. Then I die again, having my fourth daughter. I had 4 daughters between 67 and January 74. So the last one I had was teaching baton twirling to little girls around Houston. I worked for Houston Parks and Recreation, and I slept one day in the rain, and it was misty rain. I didn't think much of it, just walking in to teach, but that's because that must have jolted the placenta from my side, so I had a slow leak, like a little leak on a tire. But apparently not too long after that, and I don't remember if it was a day or the next morning, to be honest, but by the time I called my mother, I was so out of it. I was in a euphoric state, and I had lost pretty much all the blood, gone to the bathroom and told Mama, because I was hemorrhaging, and a piece of the placenta had come out of me. So she told me, it should be right over. She only lived about 2 or 3 miles away, and she came over, and then we raced me to the hospital. And by the time I got there, and the doctor wasn't there yet, and the nurses prepped me and put a little monitor on the baby, so the baby died first, and then I died. And so, but they took us in. I remember asking the doctor if I was going to die, because I first saw the baby's monitor stop, and the little beep, beep, beep. Back in the 60s, there was the 68, March 25th, that was Angela. She's alive now, but her little heart started. Well, this was Ginger, the fourth one, number 4. Her little heart stopped, and it was 74. So that's important, I guess, with my near-death experience. So number 4 saw her heart stop. So I went in at 60 over 40. So my blood pressure was down 60 over 40. And I remember them telling me to sign something. I couldn't sign it because my hand wouldn't move, so they sort of held the pen, and I scribbled something on there. And I remember them. It was cold, and they moved me over, and I remember the anesthesiologist, seeing him.